it was really selfish of me at the beginning. All I'm doing is writing and getting it out of me because it's driving me crazy. But then to find out that it helped somebody, that literally that blew me away because I was not expecting that.
Welcome to this edition of Talk with TAS. I am your host, Dr. Teresa A. Smith, also known as Dr. TAS. Today I'm joined by a powerhouse in storytelling. He's an author, he's a screenwriter, and he's even a publicist. And that is Wayne Franklin. Wayne is celebrating the 25th anniversary of his novel. He's re-releasing it, Urban Contemporary. And today we want to talk a little bit about the true events behind the book and get his unique perspective. Wayne, to be 25 years in the game and then ready to re-release something that introduced you to, I'm going to say, air quotes, society or to the world, that's something to really be proud of. Because a lot of people, they don't last 25 years. So first of all, let me give you your accolades there. You're really like a shining star for those of us who are still somewhat babes in this community. So welcome to the show officially.
Thank you.
And we're going to just jump right in.
Okay.
Now, Wayne, your novel, Urban Contemporary, is based on true events. What inspired you to transform your personal experiences into a novel?
Well, when I wrote the novel, before I wrote the novel, I was in my first marriage, and it was not great, and I was pretty depressed about it. And I'm a big movie buff, and I was watching this movie that's called Sibling Rivalry. It came out a long time ago, and it had Kirstie Alley in it. But the plot of that movie, her husband was a doctor, and all his family were doctors, and they ignored her a lot. So she wound up having an affair with somebody she met in a bar. And once they had the affair, he died at the hotel. Come to find out, the person she had the affair with was her brother-in-law that she had never met before. Blah 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 blah. So you go through that whole thing, and at the end, she's really depressed because of what happened, and her husband leaves, and she goes into a deep depression, doesn't know what to do, so she starts writing. And the movie ends, she wrote a bestseller, getting all that out, and I said, I should try doing that. And I just took some legal pads and started writing, and after a while, I had a stack of legal pads about this big, and then it transferred that over to a stack of typing paper about that big, and I stuck it in a shoebox because I didn't know what else to do with it. And while all this happened, that marriage came to an end, and the person that I was dating then, who became my second wife, we were at Barnes & Noble one day, and she called me over and said, look, and there was a sign on the shelf that said, get published today. And I said, okay, let's figure this out. And that was 25 years ago. And I got published and got a copy of the book in the mail, and I was all happy. And that was pretty much it. I didn't know what else to do with it. So I didn't do any press, any publicity. I didn't do anything with it. One of the ladies that I worked with at the time, her mother had a book club, so they all bought the book and did it for their book club, and that was like the height of my fame at that point because I was excited. I said, people are reading this, and I get to talk about it, and I didn't do anything else from there. That was just my claim to fame. Yeah, I wrote a book, and you can get it on Amazon, and that was the end of it. And I didn't know what else to do. So fast forward through the second marriage, starts to fall apart, and people knew I wrote the book, and I've written screenplays based on the fact that I wrote a book. Oh, can you write my script? So I became a screenwriter, and I never did anything else in my book except say, yeah, I wrote this, and that was pretty much the end of it. And then as this marriage fell apart, I met my current girlfriend while working on a movie set. I was running sound, and she was, as we call her, the clacker girl. So And we got to know each other over that summer that we were filming, doing the movie. And come to find out, she has 2 books out, and she had gone through all the publicity and the release parties and everything. And she's like, "How come you didn't do anything?" I said, "I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know who to ask." So she got me introduced to different people. Um, to get my name out there, and she said we have to do something for the 25th anniversary. So this coming November is the 25th anniversary, so we're doing press and everything to rev up to the re-release in November.
Well, let me acknowledge some of the folks who joined us first. Thank you, Addie, again for joining us. And I see Nicole says she found it. Yes, laugh out loud. And I'm glad that you're able to join us, Addie, even if the internet's a little bad there. Hopefully, you'll be able to stay on with us. Addie's in Africa, Wayne. And then want to say hello to Lisa Sparrow. Thank you for joining us, Lisa.
That's my girl.
Yes, well, Lisa, now you a ring. Wait a minute. Now you and Nicole, y'all being ringers here. Yes, it is an
That's right.
amazing book.
That's right.
Uh, and then I want to say hello to Tanya Frazier, 77. Thank you for joining us also. Well, when you were talking, Wayne, I was thinking life imitates art. And I'm like, was it life imitating art? Yeah, because you were watching Sibling Rivalry, and I'm gonna have to look that up because I do vaguely remember
Mm-hmm.
that because I really like Chrissy Alley,
Mm-hmm.
and I love movies, so I'm gonna look
That's a
that up
good one.
once we're done. And then I'm thinking, okay, so life is imitating art. Hi, Savici 2000. Thank you for joining us. And I was thinking, okay, so you've written your novel. So now we've moved forward and you got published that day. Now you're learning or you're working the process of an author with doing the circuit,
Yeah.
getting your book out, getting yourself in front of people. But I want to go back a little bit. When you talk about writing about real life experiences, that
Mm-hmm.
can be so powerful because we have individuals in the audience who may be established writers and some who will listen to this on the replay who are wanting to write and they want to share their personal story. Were there any moments during that writing process when you had those stacks of legal pads that were especially tough for you to write and put down on paper for other people to read?
A lot of it, it was hard because as I was writing it, it was cathartic. So it would get everything out, and a lot of it came across like a journal entry, right?
Mhm.
But of course, I'm changing the names of the people. But to write it out and reread it, a lot of that was hard because I went through a lot of different things already, and then to have to revisit it, it was painful. But once it was all over, I'd gotten it all out, and so it was like the book, the published work was a bonus on top of me getting all this pain and anguish out of my body.
Mhm.
So it's
But
like
no,
that was the. I'm sorry.
no, no, go
I
ahead.
was
Sorry.
I was gonna say that was the. Um, I wasn't real. I didn't know what to expect. I've always been creative, and I didn't know what to expect when I did it. But I just figured this would be something that I would write and be done with. But it became so much more than that, and I wasn't really expecting it. I was happy. I was proud. I was excited because I was like, You can get something from me on Amazon, but it took so long. I mean, I got it done. I started writing it in '95, and it was published in 2000. And I was happy with that at that point, not thinking it could go this far.
Mhm. What I was going to say, Wayne, was, or I was going to ask, because I understand that you said it was cathartic for you, and then you had a work product that could benefit other people.
Hmm.
Were you ready, though,
At that point,
emotionally, not the work product, well, maybe the work product too, but were you ready? Because I believe we all have
Mhm.
stories, and I've shared my story, and I shared it very openly. I was molested at the age of 4. I was bullied as a child, bullied as an adult, lost my sight when I was in the 6th grade, saw my uncle shot and killed in front of us.
Mhm.
But I share my story, but I was ready to share my story. So when you were writing in the legal pads, were you ready to share the story, or did your readiness come through that cathartic writing process?
When I wrote it, well, the thing is, I've always been told I'm an oversharer. I will tell everything and be like, yep, this happened and this happened next. And,
Mhm,
not necessarily looking for sympathy or anything.
mhm,
So when I wrote it, I wasn't even thinking about that. And it's funny when you said that, it reminded me of when I went to the book club that I was telling you about. They started asking me questions, and I said, the things they were asking me, I'm going, I didn't even think about that because they pointed out that up to a certain chapter, Chuck, the character's name is Chuck DeVille. That Chuck was one way, and then once he met Roxanne, then he was this way. And they, did you do that on purpose? And I was like, I didn't even realize I did that. But, and that's when you said how the work could help other people. I
mhm.
wasn't even thinking about it. It was really selfish of me at the beginning. All I'm doing is writing and getting it out of me because it's driving me crazy. But then to find out that it helped somebody, that literally that blew me away because I was not expecting that.
Well, have you read your book recently?
Yes, because I'm working on Lisa's giving me the stink eye right now. Yes, I am reading it because I'm supposed to be working on the audiobook.
Mhm.
But I read it maybe a couple of months ago, and it's funny. Every time I read it, I go, "That was a really good book."
And that's the reason I asked the question, because I know every time I pick up something, it could be anything. It could be a scripture in the Bible. I always get something different from it. And
Hmm.
when the ladies in the book club are saying, "Well, did you know that? Did you really plan to do this?" And you're thinking, "Well, I didn't even know I did that."
Right,
And that's when I'm like, "Well, have you now gone back, read it, and sat with the plot and how you did your twists and your turns?" And as my mentor would say, give yourself a pat on the back that you were that creative, but you weren't even thinking that when in your conscious
right,
mind. It was that unconscious mind that was really weaving the story in such a way that the audience is fascinated.
right. And it's funny you said it because, granted, every time I read it, I go, "Oh, this is great," blah blah blah. But I never looked at it like people are gonna love this. I looked at it like I did stuff. I wrote a good paper.
Uh-huh.
I wrote a good report or whatever. But and like when I wrote it, my mom, I let her read it, and I was nervous about that, but I let her read it. She said, "Wayne is good." I'm like, "You have to say that. You're my mom." And anytime I would hear people go, "Oh, this is good," I'm like, they're just being nice. Let's call a spade a spade. I've always suffered from low self-esteem, and having this talent, I looked at it like, well, yeah, but it's just me. Now, have um, I have I have 3 sons, and my youngest son is the same way. People absolutely love this kid, love this kid, love just about everything he does, and he's like, "Well, you're just saying that. You're just being nice," and it like breaks my heart when I hear him because I'm like, "No, you are awesome," and as soon as I say it, I'm like, "Don't you remember hearing that before?" So it's like, yeah, it's to me back then it was, yeah, I wrote a book, and a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, you're an author." I'm like, yeah, thinking like it's just something I did once, not realizing the impact that it has on people. And now this far into the future, looking at it and hearing people talk about it, I go, well, I guess it was more than just for me.
Well, what did you hope? Well, now, maybe not then, what was your hope that the readers would take away from the story?
Nothing. I wrote a story. I was like, here you go. But and see, having this conversation conversation, it makes me think about stuff. It makes me think about the fact how I got into becoming a screenwriter, because I went to the church I went to. I was in the drama ministry, so for doing little stuff, not thinking anything. I'm like, I like to write, so we're writing. And this guy that was in the ministry comes up and goes, Wayne, I'm going to be in a movie. I'm like, oh, that's sweet, blah 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 blah. And the guy that's making the movie goes to this church, and I go, oh, all right, well, cool. And then he goes, but he doesn't know how to make a movie. And I said, what do you mean? He said, he doesn't know how to write a movie. So I told him about your book. I'm like, okay. And I gave him my copy, and he read it. No, he said, and he's going to call you. And I said, that's fine. He called me that week, and he said, I read your book. I want you to write my movie, and at some point, I want to turn your book into a movie. 25 years ago, thinking nothing of it. I'm still in contact with that guy, Oz Leon of IML Productions here in Columbus, Ohio. Still in contact with him. He's the reason, giving him that book was the reason I got into screenwriting. No thoughts, no plans after when I wrote him, like, here's a book. But
I got to channel my sister. Look at God. I just love it when she says it. Look at God.
he definitely knew what he was doing. I had no clue. I had no idea.
So now, Wayne,
Yes,
since you've talked about this gentleman and the potential screenplay,
mm-hmm.
I know you're working on the audio now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that with mainstream literature, some people would say there's a lack of diversity, particularly when it comes to love and identity and personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that urban contemporary could help fill that gap, knowing what you know now? I don't want you to think about when you wrote it,
Right.
because you were writing from a different mindset.
Yes.
And before I let you speak, I want to say this. I'm a firm believer in time, God's time, because sometimes we think we're ready, but
Yes.
we're not ready yet. And there's still experiences that we have to have. So now that we're 25 years later, and the world is different too,
Yes.
how do you see that it might help fill that gap?
Well, as you were saying that, all these things are popping in my head. So there are, where do I start? There are a lot of different genres in modern literature, and I have created my own. I feel like I've created my own niche in literature because, again, this is all. I'm smiling a lot because I'm thinking about how all this came together when I was working on the screenplay and then trying to write other screenplays for Oz and IML. This guy who was another producer, he was working with, I'm not going to say any names because I don't know what happened, but he was working with a a writer from Columbus who's like known across the country, around the world, I'm guessing. And I gave him a copy of our contemporary, and he read it and he said, "Yeah, this is not the same as what we're doing," because he said, "Yeah, what we're writing is definitely ghetto lit." First time I'd ever heard that.
Ghetto lit.
Ghetto lit.
Lit. Ghetto literature.
Right.
Okay.
And in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm definitely not ghetto. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't know that urban contemporary would fit with that. Um, I'm not your average bear. Like, looking at me, if people see me, they have no idea what's going on inside because I am so not a stereotype that it's wild. So I wrote this book from at the time I wrote it like from the POV of where I wanted to be. Nice, nice job, nice place to live, nice car, and that was, and I don't even think they use the word buppy anymore, but I call mine Buppy Lit because there's a certain level that the characters have in this book
Mm-hmm.
and in the sequel, and you know, it's kind of like, okay, it's kind of like the opposite of there are other people who wanted to make urban contemporary into a movie, but I'd seen the other movies that they had done, and there was always a rape. There was always um, drug dealer. And I'm like, that is so not what this is. So I kept trying to fit into those boxes, and after a while, I'm like, I've just got to make my own box, Buppy Lit, and that's where I am with this. And like, and the person whose movie I worked on 2 years ago, Mark Cummings with a Walk on Water Entertainment. The movie we did was called When Three Become One, and I was running sound. And through the whole process, I'm listening to the actors and I'm reading the script and this and that. And I said, this is Buppy Lit. If Buppy Lit were a movie, it's that level. I mean, it's a great story, but it's and that's the level. That's the level in my head. I'm like, this is definitely not ghetto lit. This is
Mhm.
Buppy Lit. And when I looked at Mark's other films, I look and I'm watching, his progression as he becomes makes more movies, and I'm like, that's exactly the same lane. And I haven't even asked Mark if he has a niche or a genre that he considers it, but I saw it. That's where urban contemporary is. That's where my next two books are, in that same realm.
Well, I want to say this because as you were talking, I got a download. It said baby, but I'm going to say child. You got to protect
Yeah,
your child. Urban contemporary is your child,
that's
and
my
you have to
firstborn.
protect
Yeah.
it. Mhm. You got to protect it, and you kind of alluded to this already, but I want you to be a little more specific with it,
Hmm.
because what I'm hearing is at this moment in time. Go, we do stuff because I do it too, and I look at them like, oh, did I write that? Yeah, you wrote it.
Right.
I didn't realize I was writing that at the time. It seems to me that with this baby, there are certain misconceptions or social norms that you're challenging
Oh.
through this novel. And that's the reason why I say you got to protect the
Hmm.
baby. So, can you speak on that just a little bit?
Yes. Um, I always go back to a video I saw a couple of months ago, and the man was talking about how black men, what our challenges are, and you can't act a certain way, you can't be a certain way without being judged. And when I saw that video, I was like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like this book, you see, as Lisa, as my girlfriend said, you see it from a man's point of view. You see the pain from a man's point of view, because any other time we're not allowed to be emotional. We're not allowed to be sad. We're not allowed to be silly. We're not allowed to be happy. So, as the guy in that video was saying, you have to be stoic at all times in order to be accepted. I remember I have a I had a dog whose name was Chuck, named after the character, and a little fluffy corgi, right? And some guy was moving out of my apartment complex, and he had a pit bull that was as tall as me, but the pit bull loved me. Every time it saw me, it jumped on me and blah, blah, blah. And he had to move and couldn't keep the dog. He said, you want to take him? I'm like, I don't think Chuck is going to deal well with this dog. And he made a comment. See, you take this when you get you a man's dog. Fully offended.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay. And then at the time I had told him, I said, yeah, Lisa basically will never visit me again if I keep this dog, because
Mhm.
she doesn't like pit bulls.
Mhm.
She gonna come back. Don't let her push you around. And I'm sitting there going, it's not about that. I'm that guy. I'm gonna check.
Mhm.
I'm you know, and a lot of people look down on me because of that. They I've been looked down upon for being a good person, for asking questions instead of just ordering people around and saying, this is what you're going to do and this is what you're not going to do. I'm not him. So that urban contemporary is going to challenge that. I look at it, people who haven't read it would look at it and go, well, what kind of man is this? And what kind of man is that? That is me. This is the type of person I am. I'm not So I can be selfish, but I'm more selfless because if I'm in this relationship, I want you to have the best, and I want the best. It's not all about me, but that's looked down upon. That's looked down as weak. And and also I always have to say is Lisa keeps saying this is going to be a bestseller. This is going to be because you're going to speak to a lot of women because women don't know this side. A lot of women are just like, oh, men are dogs because of this, and this. And she told me,
Oh, yeah, I lost your volume. Okay, you're back. Volume.
she said, she had a friend that they used to sit around over the weekends and just talk, have conversations, and they would say, "I wonder if there are any men sitting around having this same conversation." So
Mhm.
she said, "Women are going to love this. They're going to eat this up because they get to see the other side." And of course, Mr. Low self-esteem. Okay, if you say so, but people are responding. People are saying things just like that, saying we needed to see this side. So
And and I agree with Lisa. I think that I think I think men and women are going to be receptive, and I think, and the reason I say that is I say it for multiple reasons. Being considered. I go back to the gentleman that was moving out, and now I'm going to give you a man's dog. What is a man's dog?
right.
We hear the same statements as it relates to women. I got to be the superwoman. Well, I can't be a superwoman because I'm a human being.
Right.
You know, I'm fragile, but
Mm-hmm.
not fragile the way you think. But I can only do so much at the same time, also. But when you talk about that, I'm thinking considered. Well, to me, that's manners. And I think sometimes we've gotten away from just regular old manners and being considerate of someone, as you said, instead of just ordering them. And it's very easy because we're moving so fast, and it's the way we socialize now. But urban contemporary makes us kind of take a step back and look at things differently. And I think this thing of being selfless.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my thing for the 2025 and on probably is about respect.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I will say to you when you talk about the low self-esteem, we're taught to respect everyone else. But as I said, and I said this online and I said to my mother offline, but you didn't teach me how to respect myself. I don't know what that looks like. And sometimes it means I'm telling myself that I'm good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because you talk about your youngest son, I have to teach myself that. I have to teach my children that because society will say that you've got to fit into this mode. And if I don't fit into that mode, then does that mean that I'm less than?
Right.
And I just think there's so many opportunities for conversations to ignite and go so many different ways as a result of urban contemporary. So I think that, you know, I believe the book is going to be well received with the relaunch. Now, I got to get this question out. Are you going to add any additional information in there that folks might want to get the new edition?
It's basically the same book, but I figured nobody saw it before, so it'll be new to them.
You are so, you know what, Wayne?
Hmm.
I'm not going to buy into that. I'm not going to buy into it. It makes good sense, but I'm not buying into that. Now, I'm not going to
Okay.
sign off on it.
Okay.
I'm not going to sign off on that. But but truthfully though, you can also leverage some of the insights that you gain from individuals who have read it in the past and who will be reading it, because that will help you to share it with different audiences. Because I see so many different, like I said before, I see so much that can come out of a heart. Maybe I don't know if I should say that word, but a different type of story. And I'm going to say heartwarming because heartwarming means different
Right.
things to
Right.
different people, you know, and to be able to see the other side of men of color.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say of color, not black men,
Yeah.
men of color, because men of color, and I'm using it very loosely, there are going to be lots of men that will see themselves in there. There will be lots of women that will see either their mate or their brother or their father, regardless of their ethnicity, race, they will see that individual in the character.
Mm-hmm.
And that then sparks the dialogue that we need, because I think that we can never forget the importance of our, our men
Mm-hmm.
in our families, because we need both the man and the woman if it's a man and woman family.
Right.
And we need both of them working together.
Mm-hmm.
So now, for those who might be just discovering your work,
Yes, ma'am.
where can they get a copy of, you mentioned it already, but where can they get a copy of Urban Contemporary?
It's available on Amazon. That it's either you can look up Urban Contemporary, but it's easier to look up Urban Contemporary W.R. Franklin, because just Urban Contemporary will take you. You got to go through a bunch of different titles to get to mine.
So
And if it doesn't come
Urban
up under W.R. Franklin, do Wayne Franklin Urban Contemporary.
Urban Contemporary. Well, I know it's there because I downloaded my ebook a couple of days
Okay.
ago, so I know it's there, and I just put Urban
Okay.
Contemporary,
Okay.
and it's
Listen to
got the
Dr.
picture.
Todd. She knows what
So,
she's talking about.
yes, and show that picture again because it's the picture of the gentleman,
Mm-hmm.
so that they'll know what it looks like.
Right.
You're going to see the picture of the gentleman because like I said, I downloaded and I just put Urban Contemporary
Okay.
in Amazon, and I was able to download the ebook. So, Wayne,
Thank
if you had one last thing that you'd want to leave with the audience, what would that be?
you. I guess I would say it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to be the you that God made. You don't have to try to fit into other people's mold, like you said, other people's what they expect. And yes, it's all right. It's okay to be yourself. You don't have to, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I love you. I love you just the way you are. As long as you do this and this and this." You don't have to follow that list. Just be you.
And that's a powerful message, Wayne, to be you, who you are, love you for who you are, accept you, and don't allow other people to change you because you're
Exactly.
uniquely created. And I think the Urban Contemporary shows that that book was uniquely created out of your life experiences, and it's resonating with audiences. It resonated then, it's resonating now, it's going to resonate in November when you re-release it. And to think you were just being you.
Yes. I didn't think about that. But yes,
Just
I was
being
just
you.
being me.
Just being you. Well, Wayne, tell the audience how they can stay in contact with what you're doing so they don't miss anything.
Oh, okay. I'm on Instagram under this is WR Franklin. I'm on Facebook under WR Franklin Media. And I also have a YouTube channel, and it's WR Franklin Media. Or you can go to my website, which is wrfranklinmedia.weebly.com.
Well, Wayne, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing Urban Contemporary with my audience and your journey and how you're really going to be changing how we view literature. That Bucky lit. And I cannot wait to see where everything ends. It's always a pleasure to have innovative individuals on Talk with Tots. And so I thank you so much for joining me
Thank
today.
you for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you. And also thank you to our audience. Thank you everyone for joining us. Um, Let me look here. I thank you, Tisasti. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Yes, it is going to be a bestseller. Hard work does pay off. Also, slowly but surely, you made it. You did a great job, Wayne. Thank you. Eddie said it was a great interview. You are very talented. As women, we really want to know how men think when a relationship is going bad. And this book tells us more from a man's point of view. I love that you created your own box. Your view and experience is so unique and should be celebrated as such. Absolutely. Hi, Jesus Blackman 23. Thank you so much for joining us. He's like, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely. And as someone I know says, if they don't invite you to the table, create your
Next
own
table.
table.
Hmm.
And, they're right. You created your own box, but we've been doing that forever. I
Hmm.
think sometimes we forget that we have that ability.
Yeah,
And that's another reason I think it's so timely that Urban Contemporary is about to be relaunched, because it shows again that we have what we need to create what we want. We just got to believe it, because he's
exactly.
already given it to us.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
so again, thank you so much, Wayne, and thank everybody for joining me. And until next time, before you go try and take care of somebody else, please make sure you take care of yourself first. Bye now. Bye-bye.